Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber who is apparently a novice because he wants to take my novice program and he wants to split it up into 5 days a week instead of 3. And his main reason is because he thinks he will be bored if he's only in the gym 3 days a week. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. All right, brother, well, what you need to think about for a minute here is you've got to decide for yourself what's more important to you, getting the best progress possible with the best recovery, the most energy, and the lowest injury rate versus boredom. You want me to be perfectly honest with you? If you think only lifting weights 3 days a week is going to be boring and you need to be in the gym more, it's kind of weird. It seems like you're coming in as a novice who's already trying to exhibit signs of exercise addiction. And my advice to you is going to be to step back and reassess that for a minute. Really reassess what it is that you find boring about that. Are you being overzealous? Are you just obsessed with the fact that you just think deep down it's not about being bored, but maybe that you're going to get better results if you're in the gym 5 days a week, even splitting up a given routine into 5 days instead of just doing 3. And here's the thing that you got to remember. Do you know the number one reason people tend to fail a lot of their New Year's resolutions and things? And you're coming to me with this in January. Because they push too hard, too much with unrealistic goals, and they burn themselves out doing boot camps and excessive training instead of coming in and just making gradual progress and building consistency and a changeable lifestyle, like an actual shift in lifestyle that isn't that big of a deal, one step at a time. It's like I said before, you want to make changes permanent, change one little thing at a time and just slowly build upon it till each thing becomes habit. Then things become a permanent lifestyle. A lot of times when people come up and they're noobs, they get overzealous with that because they just want to get in more. They want to lift more weight, so they want to get in more frequently, and they end up burning out, end up getting sore, getting tired, and they drop out and they quit training. Or they end up developing an exercise addiction. An exercise addiction can be a problem as well. And I'm not saying that it's the worst thing in the world to be addicted to. It really isn't. I mean, there are far worse things to be addicted to than exercise. I would much rather see someone be addicted to lifting weights and be addicted to heroin, be addicted to alcohol, various other substances. Let's just be realistic here. But exercise addiction can become a danger in the sense of sometimes people become so addicted to exercise that them exercising becomes more important than their actual progress. It becomes more important than their gains in muscle. It becomes more important than their improved performance, and it even can sometimes become more important than staying injury-free. Because the people who feel like, I just have to lift all the time, are the people who don't know when to back down when it's appropriate. They don't deload when it's appropriate. They have higher injury rates. Those are the people who just keep pushing through the pain sometimes once they get addicted because they can't quit training and they don't know when to quit. They get inflammation, they get tendonitis in their joints and things, and then their quality of life goes down. And if they keep pushing and don't give up, eventually they end up snapping something. They snap a pec off the bone. They snap a bicep off the bone. They end up injuring themselves. That's a worst case scenario. So what part of that I would do is advise you to step back and assess that. Do you really think that you're going to get better progress by splitting it up into 5 days? I'm going to tell you the answer is no. Most novice lifters, most of the data I've seen over the years shows that novice lifters, people in their first year of serious training, usually make the best results doing a full body 3 days a week. And the reason is they're also giving themselves 48 hours in between. They're coming in, and by the full body nature of it, you're subjecting your body to a large amount of metabolic fatigue. You need to understand that by not splitting the program up, a lot of the exercises work similar muscles. You need to understand that some of the stuff you're thinking of as upper body exercises do work your lower body. The standing overhead press, the barbell rows, that stuff works your lower body. So you're talking about going upper, lower, upper, lower, upper. But you need to understand you're not giving some of those any break. And if you do them on the correct workout days, they add a total cumulative metabolic fatigue, meaning the deadlift actually does work your traps and your biceps and your forearms and everything else. So doing the deadlift, which is you're thinking of as a lower body exercise, does a lot to add to the cumulative fatigue to those upper body muscles. Same with the squat. The rows, the standing press, all of that stuff adds to your lower body total fatigue. Now, you fatigued your lower body with other stuff first, but that stuff adds to it. It's that cumulative fatigue that helps stimulate the total workload that you adapt to. By doing them in one day, you're maximizing the recoverable fatigue, and then you are not lifting weights the next day at all, so that you are fully recovering, growing, and adapting. By splitting this up, you are interfering with the total fatigue that you would get each day, the cumulative fatigue, and you're re-hitting the same muscles with additional fatigue the next day that are not going to be fully recovered. I'm not saying you're going to overtrain doing this, but what I am saying is you might gain a little less muscle doing this. Now, the question I would ask you is your boredom really worth gaining less muscle? Is your boredom worth developing potentially extra inflammation and connective tissue, making you sore unnecessarily, leading you to a small chance of higher injuries unnecessarily? And are you going to go on to do this same sort of stuff addictively? Because look at programs like the FAT program. I know several people who've been injured doing the FAT program, which is an excessive upper, lower, whatever type routine like you're talking about here, to where they're pushing out excessive workloads, because then they get into the gym and they don't do what you're saying. People get in and then they decide, well, instead of splitting the workload up into 5 days instead of 3, I'm in the gym already 5 days, I might as well turn them into full workouts. And before long, people start running these 5-day-a-week undulating periodization with extreme amounts of workload, and they end up getting overuse injuries. They end up damaging things. Their body doesn't recover the way that they need to, because you can't train with very large amounts of workload on a solid program like that has you doing things at a reasonable frequency, not a body part split, but at a reasonable frequency, where you might be squatting 2 or 3 days a week, pressing 3 days a week. You start doing that with too much volume, and your exercise addiction at that point can lead to injuries. I mean, look what it's done to Lane Norton. Yeah, he's been strong, he's made progress, but he's also so busted up that he can't even train anymore. The guy is facing multiple career-ending potential injuries now as a result of it. A lot of his followers follow this same sort of program, which is the direction you're starting to go with this, have the same sort of problems, injuries. So there's a different way you need to look at this. You need to step back and go, is this really what I need to do, or should I be doing this correctly? Lift the right way and be in the gym 3 days a week doing full body. That's going to give you the best possible gains with the lowest possible injury. It's going to help you maximize your progress, maximize your recovery. That's what you should be shooting for, I would hope. You're going to the gym to make progress, not to alleviate boredom. Because if you're just bored, there's lots of things you can do besides lift weights if you're bored. And here's the other thing. You don't have to lift weights just because you go to the gym. You know what else also matters to overall fitness, overall health? How about your conditioning? How about your conditioning? And if you've got that much free time and energy, then maybe you could do some GPP work. You could do some cardio on your off days. All right, why don't you come in on your off days and do really light barbell complexes? Why don't you do some farmer's walks, some sled drags, maybe hit a tire with a hammer, maybe go chop some wood, do some weighted carries. You could do all of that. That's totally viable options. Yeah, you could go to the gym and do those things. You don't have to go to the gym just to lift weights. You could also go to the gym and do cardio for an hour. If you feel like you need to be in the gym because you feel like you need to be active more than 3 days a week, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, cardio and conditioning work is something that people can do up to 7 days a week. I'm an advocate of that. I think most people out there, even serious lifters, serious competitive lifters, I think would benefit from doing at least 30 minutes of cardio 6 or 7 days a week. I think that would be good for them. In fact, even medical doctors recommend that people lifting weights still should probably do some sort of at least low intensity cardio 4 days a week. At least 4. In fact, I've seen one medical doctor, gosh, his name eludes me. I've mentioned him before. Mentioned him from his Facebook page, saying some awesome stuff that he feels like his patients, if his patients would just lift weights 3 days a week and go walk and do 30 minutes of brisk walking 4 days a week, that he feels like 70 or 80% of the ailments that his patients come into his office with would never occur. You know, that's coming from a medical doctor who's big on fitness, big on lifting, big on nutrition. All right, that's an MD standing there saying that. And I tend to agree with him. So why don't you do some cardio? Why don't you do some conditioning work? You don't have to go in and lift. You're probably, as a drug-free, particularly a drug-free novice lifter, you are very unlikely to gain more muscle from lifting more than 3 days a week. You're very, very unlikely to gain more. So why come in and do more? Why don't you use that to work on your conditioning? Your conditioning is a big part of your fitness. And in fact, being well cardiovascularly conditioned can also help you with your recovery from weightlifting. In the long term, once you get fit from your conditioning, it will facilitate better recovery from your training. It will make you all around better. Better recovery from training is going to equal more strength. It's going to equal more gains. That's a good thing. Once you work on your conditioning, if you really feel like you need to get in and do something and then run a proper program instead of bastardizing a program that's kind of proven to work the way that it is, based on a proven system and a set of concepts. There's no need to deviate from that. Come in and spend that time doing some conditioning. You know, a little bit of general physical preparedness won't hurt you at all. It'd be a good thing for you. Get up there and do some farmer's walks. Do a little bit of sled drags. That's what I would recommend. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.